Hello, everyone. My name is Tabitha Ishman, and I am the Marketing Manager at Excalibur Data Systems. Thank you for joining us for our webinar today, Advanced Knowledge Management for Cherwell, Reduce Costs While Enhancing the Service Desk Experience, brought to you by Excalibur Data Systems and our partner ComAround. ComAround is a global leader in the knowledge management space whose software seamlessly integrates into Cherwell. And ourselves, as a boutique integrator of ITSM and enterprise service management solutions at Excalibur Data Systems, are proud to be able to partner with ComAround and Sharewheel. So a few things just before we get started. The webinar will be recorded today, and your lines have been muted. The questions will be answered after the presentation, but we do want questions, so you can go ahead and submit them to us in the chat window. And to get started today, I'd like to introduce Brent Kellogg, Director of Sales and Business Development in North America from ComAround. So hello, Brent.
Well, hey, Tabitha, and hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today, and looking forward to a good webinar. Maybe a bit of background. My name is Brent Kellogg. I'm Director of Sales and Business Development for ComAround. Been in the knowledge management business, going back to the late 90s, so I've seen a lot of change occur in KM over time, both on the process side and best practices and technology. So the focus of today's webinar, will be to look at advanced knowledge management for Cherwell and how ComAround has integrated into the Cherwell platform with a real focus on, reducing costs while enhancing the service desk experience, leveraging knowledge to help really power and enable that. I thought a good way to kind of start this was this question: why does knowledge management matter? I mean, we all hear so much about knowledge management. We know it's an important thing and can contribute to the business. But kind of starting at the highest level of what is knowledge management and why does it matter? And there was a great quote I found. It's from Ken Durr. He's an ex-CEO of Chevron. Every day a better idea goes unused is a lost opportunity. We have to share more and share faster. And that whole idea of sharing is kind of the core of knowledge management, curating knowledge, sharing it, reusing it for the advantage of the company. But I thought, let's even go a little bit deeper. A more fundamental question really is, why does knowledge matter? The actual knowledge itself. What is it, and why does it matter to companies? And it's really one of the most strategic assets probably any company possesses, probably all companies. And this is both internal facing as well as externally. It spans across the entire enterprise, from things like product development and marketing and sales, as well as support. It really impacts all aspects of the business. But when you think about it, knowledge really does drive all business activity, and it's a core enabler of efficiency within the enterprise. And when this knowledge is curated, and when it's reused, it's made available and reused, it enables consistency in how business is conducted, and it really serves to amplify, I think, the capabilities of your employees and also your customers. So internally facing again, as well as externally facing. So today we'll be looking at knowledge and knowledge management in the context of the service desk. But I think we can all agree really its importance and value extends across all aspects of the enterprise. The question, I think, is in terms of the service desk, how can we leverage knowledge to really amplify capabilities and maximize employee value? And here's some interesting data I came across. It's from HDI that looks at where the IT service desk employees spend their time. And 68% spend their time on level 1 calls, 47% on level 2, and 26% on level 3. And so, how is it that we can make time available for those valuable resources to focus on higher value tasks, right? And the answer here is going to be knowledge, but how do we leverage knowledge to really make better use of their time, allow them to provide higher value things within the business rather than taking repetitive calls, level 1 calls over and over again. And the answer is really shifting left. And it's this concept of capturing knowledge, curating it, making it available, making it consumable, and shifting down the cost chain. So tickets that were a level 3 type of a scenario can be moved to level 2, and from level 2 to 1. And ultimately it's making that information, that knowledge available in level 0 support, making it available in self-service. And in addition to just really reducing the net cost of support delivery, again, it increases that consistency, frees up your team members to focus on that higher value tasks to the enterprise. And this sounds great, right? But what does the data show on using knowledge to achieve these things? Some more interesting data from HDI, and I think really it's a pretty eye-opening statistic. This came out in 2018, so last year. 61% of organizations saw ticket volumes go up, and that's pretty sobering. I'm guessing a lot of you are experiencing the same type of thing. It's not surprising, I think. Technology and applications and services are getting more complex, and those result in more questions being asked to the service desk by employees. But at the same time, this same study shows that 14% of companies saw a reduction in tickets. So while 61% are seeing an increase, 14% somehow are bucking the trend and seeing a reduction in ticket volumes over the last year. So they're clearly doing something different. And so what is going on? What are those 14% doing that's enabling them to reduce support volume at a time when across most companies they're going up? And the answer from this same report focuses on both knowledge management and self-help. And so knowledge management and a knowledge base is a prerequisite to providing good self-service and self-help. And we can see that 24% within this study was focused on knowledge management and 37% on self-help. So it really is a core element that allows volumes to shift left from those tiers 3, 2, and 1 and into self-service, and freeing up resources to provide those higher value kind of services to the company. So the core of that, the real key enabler of that, is knowledge. And this is a graphic from RTM Consulting, and it kind of puts it into perspective end to end, from your self-service to the far left, which is level 0, going up to your on-call or interactive channels of level 1, 2, and 3, and then the on-site type of services, and the huge cost factor increase that results each step you move towards the right. And so there really are some significant cost advantages to moving left, and it isn't just cost advantages, it's also in terms of satisfaction, right? I mean, when people can get their answers more quickly and move on with their job, they're going to be happier and they're going to be more productive. But a key thing, that I hear every single day in talking to companies is that, well, we have tons of knowledge, but it's all over the place, right? I mean, we have it in SharePoint, we have it in wikis, we have it in knowledge bases and desktops. But the big one that is just so common is that it's in the heads of their agents and SMEs. It's tribal knowledge. So there's tons of knowledge there in the enterprise, but it isn't provided in a way or curated in a way that can be shared with peers, and it can't be leveraged over and over for consistency and that efficiency. The problem with having all this knowledge in so many different places is it's often out of date and duplicated. It can be inconsistent, and it's generally not accessible to other agents and to self-service users who really do need quick and targeted information so they can solve that problem at hand and move on to the next ticket, or from the context of a self-service user, get on with their day and continue on with the responsibilities they have, as part of their job. So this is a really kind of a funny image here, but what shape is your knowledge in today? This probably rings true for a lot of us, for a lot of the participants in our webinar. But knowledge is, in many ways, it's kind of like herding cats. Where do you begin? And once it starts to get out of control, it's hard to rein back in and get in a high quality and valuable state. And at times, it's almost like it's an overwhelming thing to get your knowledge into a usable and findable, kind of a knowledge base. And it's true. I mean, managing knowledge, it really is difficult. Here's some data from SDI, and it talks about, the knowledge bases generally are just getting harder to implement, and they're getting harder to maintain. You would think that over time, as these knowledge management platforms evolve and mature, the ease of implementation and the ease of maintenance would become simpler. But the data is showing just the opposite, and it's not small. From 2013 to 2017, that's a 10% increase in the perceived difficulty of implementation and maintenance of the knowledge within a knowledge management platform. And so when you're looking at knowledge management, ease of use is just critical. It's huge. If you don't if it's not a system that is easy to maintain, it's going to compromise the adoption you're able to achieve both by your agents and by your self-service users. So, it just really is imperative that you have a system that is easy to use and easy to maintain over time. So kind of bringing this back towards ComAround and the map integration that we have with Sharewheel, I wanted to focus just on a few of the KM success enablers that make our platform so easy to use and really make it easy to embed within the business process of agents so that they choose to use it, they are successful in using it, and it becomes culturally part of how they perform their jobs in terms of using knowledge and creating knowledge over time. We have a plug and play integration with Cherwell, and it's Cherwell certified. We call it the ComAround Map 3.0. I guess a pretty big proof statement is even Cherwell themselves has adopted ComAround and has it integrated within their instance of Cherwell, and they're using it to provide global support to all of their Cherwell customers, across the world. Here in a bit, we'll also take a look at ComAround's ease of use in the demo portion in terms of creating knowledge and maintaining that. So things like auto translations and the ease of adding screenshots into your content, our drag and drop editor and things like this. So very easy and elegant to create and use knowledge over time, which again contributes to adoption by all the stakeholders. In terms of adopting it, and a few other really important points, and this is particularly relevant when you look at it from the self-service side, is it's one thing to have knowledge within the system. So you create it, you publish it, it is available, but it has to be findable. If your users cannot easily and with low effort find that information, they're not going to trust the system and they're not going to adopt it. It has to be consumable. Once they do find that information, it has to be easy to work through, to find the answer to their question. So things like those auto translations and screenshots are very important just to get them to choose to engage and be successful using that information. And then it has to as well be measurable. And this is just a really big one for ComAround. We are big believers in optimizing your knowledge base and content over time, and really to be able to do that, you have to have visibility into how your users are using it, both on the agent side and on the self-service side. And we use Microsoft Power BI, a very powerful analytics platform in the background to provide interactive reports. We also enable you to plug into our database via OLAP cubes, so you can use your own Tableau or Power BI or other analytics packages to produce your own custom reports. So just a ton of capability in terms of knowing what's going on, measuring it, and being able to use that data as an input to optimizing all of your content over the long term. So for those integrations that we performed for Cherwell customers across the globe, we've seen some really great statistics and data, up to 50% case deflection. So 50% of the cases being deflected and solved within the portal in Cherwell and self-service, and upwards of 40% higher first contact resolution. So some pretty compelling statistics there on the advantages of incorporating data or incorporating knowledge and advanced knowledge into the Cherwell Service Management environment through the ComAround integration. I think first here, before we jump in to the demos, it'd be valuable to tell you a little bit about ComAround, kind of as a baseline, who we are as a company. We are over 20 years old, so we aren't new to this. We're actually the largest independent KCS verified platform globally. I think there's maybe 5 platforms across the globe that are KCS V6 verified, and I believe we were the second to achieve that designation. So even if you're not a KCS shop, having that KCS verification means that it's a very usable platform, very easy process-wise to implement ways of curating knowledge that will help with adoption on the agent and self-service side. There are really 3 legs to the stool in terms of ComAround. Our core, of course, is ComAround Knowledge. It's our SaaS-based KM application. But we also provide best practices training, KCS certification. So for those clients of ours that want to go to the next level on the process side, we're there to support you. We also author and maintain what we call article pack libraries. So these are thousands upon thousands of knowledge base articles on things like Windows 10 and Office 365, Android, iOS, Adobe products. It's a pretty gigantic list, but we author and maintain these over time and make them available at no additional charge to Cherwell customers through the map integration. So the knowledge base comes pre-populated, and you can then extend as much or as little of that article pack knowledge out to your agents and self-service users right out of the gate. Our Cherwell integration plugs into the agent side, so the agent desktop, as well as the portal for end users for self-service, and those article packs, like I say, are made available through that map integration as well. And we'll look at all of this as part of the demo here in a few moments. But first, I thought it'd be good to talk about some of the kind of key functional components that we're bringing to the Cherwell integration that really make it supercharged. We like to say supercharging KM for Cherwell. I think one of the biggest and most important is our Azure search. It's a very Google-like, includes spelling forgiveness, did you mean this suggestions, and it's actually self-learning over time. So the more that it's used, the more refined it gets and the more accurate it becomes. We'll take a look at that in the demo, but it's a very powerful addition to Cherwell implementations. We have a built-in video creation tool. So everybody likes to go to YouTube, for instance, to see how to do things. With just a couple of clicks, your knowledge workers or agents will be able to create video content and publish those right into your knowledge base. We allow you to transform Word documents right into the knowledge base. So we work with Microsoft to develop this utility. With just a click or two, you bring in Word documents, they turn into knowledge base articles, and you can publish those, so you don't have to rewrite them to get them into the system. We have mobile access, so through your smartphone or tablet, your field users can access the knowledge base. We have a Windows 10 and Teams integration, so users can access the ComAround knowledge base from those environments as well as the strong analytics that we just talked about a moment ago. So this idea of actionable intelligence, like I had mentioned earlier, it's critical for KM optimization. And we're using Power BI in the backend. Like I said, we have quite a suite of standard reports that are drilled to detail. You can click in and drill into more and more detail within those reports. We're also expanding this suite of online reporting out pretty dramatically here in the next probably 45 days. I think we're going to double the size of the reporting that's available, including things like geolocation and the platform that your users are on and the browser that they're using. As well as the ability to track the journey of users. So where are they coming into support? What are they searching for? Where are they abandoning and things like this? So just a wealth of information on usage, again, that you can use to refine the experience of using knowledge over the long term. So next we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the Cherwell map integration. And we'll start out on the self-service side. A few things to look for here within this integration are the spelling forgiveness and the did you mean suggestions, the auto translations that are available, I think, in about 110 languages now that come standard. The ticket deflection. So within the self-service side of Sharewell, we've implemented when a user goes in to submit a ticket, they're actually presented with knowledge-based content prior to submitting the ticket. That's the level 0 in the self-service that can produce ticket deflection. And so you don't get a ticket to the service desk, but you're also solving it in real time so the user can go on about their day and they're getting their information immediately. Some of the things to be watching for, I think, when we go through the demo are these concepts of findability and consumability of knowledge, which, like I mentioned earlier, are so critical to adoption. Within the integration, there are 2 real access points. If we assume we're an end user or an employee coming into the self-service portal, we'll be able to search the knowledge base directly. That's that top box that we'll be looking at, as well as go into the ticket submission sequence, the get help there, and we'll take a look at that as well as to what the user experience looks like. So we'll jump into the demo of the portal side of Cherwell and the integration. And so when a user comes in to the portal, they have a couple of options. One, they can search the knowledge base directly. They also have the option to go to the ticket submission process if their intent is to get a hold of an agent. But first we'll go ahead and we'll just search the knowledge base and give an example of what that looks like. So we choose to search. We see there's a few options here, one being news. So this is a news section where you can populate articles that are relevant, you want your employees to see, as well as recommended content. So maybe it's critical or hot or important information that you want to put right at their fingertips, so you can post those in the recommended section. But we'll go ahead and do a search of the knowledge base and enter our search string here. So this will be using the map to call to the ComAround database, and we'll say, how do I install a new network printer as an example? And we'll hit OK. And what we'll see here when the solution or when the list of results loads is that I have a spelling error. How do I install a new network printer? And native out of Sharewell, their keyword search wouldn't find relevant results, but we're presented with, did you mean a new network printer? So this is leveraging the cognitive services within our Azure natural language search. And so we're able to refine that to say, yes, I did mean printer. And we'll take a look at adding a network printer article within the knowledge base. So this will load for us, and we'll be able to review and see if this is an article that is relevant and answers our question. But it could be that as a user, I don't want to view this in English. I may be more comfortable reading this article in another language. So here's the 110 different languages where translations can be conducted on the fly. And our user is going to go down the list, and they'll choose to view the article in a different language. So let's say that they want to go in and view this in Spanish. So just like that, the article is translated in Spanish, or perhaps they want to go and view it in a different language, and they can go up and choose another one out of the list here. And let's say that they want to view it in Japanese. So it does support Chinese, traditional, Mandarin, Japanese as well. So pretty powerful on that front. So now within the portal side, of the integration, let's go in and we'll take a look at the a ticket submission sequence. So our user in this case, their intent is to submit a ticket to an agent. We'll see that there's a couple of buttons here. One is to search the ComAround knowledge base, and two, to submit to an agent. So we'll go ahead and we'll submit our question here in the text box. And how do I use a pivot table in Excel? And you can see that I've done another spelling error here just to show that within the ticket submission sequence. So as a step one, we'll search the knowledge base, and it will bring back results that we can click on and view, similar to what we saw in the direct portal search. And again, it's giving us a recommended, did you mean, how do I use a pivot table? And this is, I'm only doing a pretty small spelling error here, but you can really do a pretty bad job of spelling and it will come back and give you relevant results. So it goes a long, long way to getting the trust, achieving the trust of your self-service users for sure. So we'll look at one of these articles here within the knowledge base. And this is actually an article that is out of our article packs on Excel that comes as part of the solution. So let's say that our users, yep, this did solve my problem. I want to move on. So what happens is we create a ticket within Sharewheel. It's 102.557 in this case. The ticket was created and closed. It put it in a resolved state. So it's now there for tracking. We've linked that article to the question. We've opened and closed it. And so for tracking purposes, we have that to analyze in the future. We'll go back in here this time and we're going to go through the same kind of ticket submission sequence, but we're going to assume that our end user doesn't find a relevant article. They tried to look in the knowledge base. There wasn't content that solved their question. And so we're going to end up submitting this ticket to an agent. But the key thing that's going to happen here within the integration is we're tracking all of this. This gets back to the data that we're capturing. We're capturing the question and the string. We're capturing every article that our self-service user may look at while they're trying to help themselves. And then when this gets submitted into an agent, all of that gets passed on as part of the ticket so that the agent can go in and they can see what all happened within the self-service journey, and so that they're not trying to solve the problem with the same information that our employee already said, hey, this didn't help me. So here we've created a ticket. It's been put in the queue for an agent, and it's 102.558 in this case. So we'll take a look at that on the agent side. So in terms of the integration for the agent, there's many different look and feels for Sharewheel depending on the version you're on and the customizations you've done. Out of the box, we have the ComAround search returns display on the right, but they can also be displayed in other places like a tab, should that real estate on the right already be in use, given how you've deployed Sharewheel. So we'll jump in here. We'll take a look at the agent side of the integration. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into that case that we just created on the self-service side and see what the agent is able to see in terms of what the user did in self-service. So that ticket was 102.558. We'll click into that and we'll be able to see that the self-service user, what articles they looked at, what search they performed, and all of that information is provided down here in this tab that's part of the integration called ComAround Histories. So there it is. We'll open it up, and we can see that our self-service user asked about configuring a new VPN. If they actually change that string and ask multiple questions, we'll see that. We can see that they looked at 2 articles. And so our agent has a head start. They know what happened in self-service, and they're going to be situated to provide, solve this ticket faster and with more confidence. Now we'll go out, and from the agent side, we'll assume we're starting a brand new ticket. So let's say we have a call that came in, we're creating a ticket manually here. So we'll go into Cherwell to create a new incident. And the agent desktop will load. We need to fill out some of these fields here as far as requester and priority, which we'll do. And then we'll go ahead into the description field and we'll add what the problem statement is. And so in this case, let's say, how do I access the printer from the Sacramento office? So we have somebody in Sacramento that's not typically there. They want to know how to get onto the printer, let's say. We'll go ahead and we'll search the ComAround knowledge base. And of course, that button doesn't need to say ComAround. It does for demo purposes, but you can, of course, call that whatever you want to call it. So this is calling out via the map and the APIs. It's pulling back the knowledge that has been authored within the integration. Here we see some possible results. And again, I'm going to choose the recommended solution because there was another misspelling in there. I'm really making a big point here of the misspelling. It's so powerful, and it's really such a huge advantage within the Sharewheel environment. So I'm showing it over and over again here. But so these will reload now with a modified search phrase, and we'll be able to then preview articles that the agent may choose to use in resolving this ticket. So we'll look at accessing a printer from the Sacramento office as one option. And this will load, and our agent will take a look, see if he might be able to use this, or she might be able to use this to solve the ticket directly. And so in this case, we will look at a second one, troubleshooting a printer issue from Sacramento. And within the agent interface, they're able to look at, we're not showing it here, but they're able to look at articles side by side to compare and contrast them, which is another advantage relative to Sharewheel out of the box. And so our agent has found that that's a good solution. It does address the question. They're able to click on the icon, which will link this article to this ticket for tracking purposes. We know that this question was resolved using this specific article, and now we're able to then email a link to this article to our employee that asked the question. Right, and so by providing this link, we could also include language in here that says, hey, this is right out of the self-service knowledge base. You should check out self-service in the future, potentially, those kinds of things to socialize the availability of self-service and help change behaviors of your employees to trust that self-service environment. But what we'll do here is, let's just assume that we didn't find a knowledge base article to solve this specific ticket. Let's assume that our agent had to resolve it manually, and what we found is that there's a knowledge base gap here. And so what we have done is we enabled this ticket and all the information in it to be used to create a new knowledge base article on the fly. So we click on, let's use this ticket to create a new knowledge base article. We can add in what title we want for our new article. So this is demand-driven knowledge creation. It's based on an actual question from an actual end user. We found a gap, solved the problem, and now we're using that resolution to create a draft in the knowledge base that can be leveraged by other agents over time so they don't run into the same problem of finding a gap. So the draft has been created, and we just chose to go in there and do a little bit of editing. The agent can choose to edit in real time, like we're going to see here. They can also choose just to put it into the queue for others to edit, so it goes into the workflow for others to edit. But we'll go ahead and just open up the editor here just so we can show a little bit about what the functionality is like within the ComAround Knowledge editor. So we've taken that article and we've gone into edit mode, and we can see that some of the attributes from the ticket are already pre-populated within our template. And so we're going to go in and make a couple changes into the resolution. And I think the first thing we'll do is just show the ease to drag and drop images in. And this is a pretty big deal. If it's easy to add images and other graphical elements, then your knowledge workers and agents will do that. And then that gets back to the consumability of the content. It's easy to add those types of elements. And so it'll also be easier for your end users to consume that information. So we have things like tags and metadata as well as this period of validity. So let's assume that you want this article to go live, who knows, on July 1st, and you want it to come down at the end of the month or on some other date range. You can complete the article and save it, and it will go live within the system on the date that you specify, as well as coming down on the date that you specify. You can choose the different state you want it to be in. Is this draft or approved? Does somebody else need to look at it before it's actually published? And we provide quite a bit of permissioning here. This is all KCS compliant. We have things like a candidate that can do a draft and a contributor that can approve and publisher that can publish and so forth. So a lot of levels of permissions that you can give to your users as they evolve and become more proficient. You also have the ability to check for duplicates within the system, and this is pretty critical as well. You don't want overlapping or duplicate content. So with just a click of a button, you can review quickly to see if there is other knowledge-based content that addresses the same issue, as well as defining the source. So was it a phone source or email or other. But we'll go in here and we'll put it into approved status and we'll save this article. Excuse me. And then we'll go on and we're going to take a look at authoring a new article from scratch. And in this scenario, we're going to show that word transformation utility. And so let's say we have a Word document. It's it's already been developed and we want to bring it into the knowledge base. So we'll open up a new article within the editor here, and we will just call it a test Word import. And then we'll go out and we'll choose that Word document that's out on our desktop, and we'll bring it in with just 1 or 2 clicks into the knowledge base. Yeah, this is just a fantastic utility. You can actually use this in large Word documents and manuals to create folders from a big Word doc and individual knowledge base articles. It'll break the Word doc up into multiple articles within those folders that you created from the original doc. So very powerful. So there we brought it in. We can see that the document was successfully imported here into our knowledge base article. And there it is. There's numbered lists and bullets and images and different section headings, and it's all been preserved and brought in from that original Word document. So we'll save that into a published state, but let's also say that we'd like this article to be available in a different language. And so we'll say we want this one to be available in German as well. So when a user comes in to view this article, it may make sense to have it available both in English and German or French or whatever language in this tabular format. And they can go ahead and also use the drop-down that we looked at earlier to have it translated into those other 110 languages. But that just shows the ease with which you can localize content right out of the editor. So as our next step, in our presentation today, I wanted just to really quickly show you a brand new and exciting piece of capability that we've integrated in, and that's our Conversational UI. It's a bot, conversational bot. It's really meant for the use case of a smartphone, so to access knowledge for field workers or people that want to access, from their iPhone or Android or those kinds of devices. And a little bit of information from Gartner. And this is very telling. 99% of AI initiatives in IT service management will fail due to a lack of an established knowledge management foundation. And really what they're saying here is that AI is powerful. It's a great navigation mechanism, but for companies that don't have an established knowledge management foundation underpinning that, it's the knowledge that the bot is going to ultimately access. If they don't have that knowledge management piece in place and well defined, the AI initiative will fail. And I think this is a pretty critical point that a lot of companies are overlooking. I mean, 99%, essentially 100%, they're saying will fail, and the reason why is that KM foundation. So we'll take a look at conversational UI. We'll jump into a demo of that. And this is actually my iPhone. There are 3 different ways to use the bot. One is to submit a request into Sharewheel in this case. One would be to check the status of an existing ticket you have in Sharewheel. And the last is just to ask a question. So just for purposes of this demo here, we'll just ask a question of the bot. And we'll go in and we'll say, can I wear jeans to work? So it's more of an HR question maybe, but our user is wanting to know if it's okay to wear jeans into the office. And so it's going to go out via APIs in the bot, look into the Cherwell and ComAround knowledge base through our integration, and it'll bring back relevant options in terms of knowledge base content. And here we see employee dress code. That's pretty smart as far as the search goes. We asked about jeans, and it's interpreting that to mean dress code. And so we'll take a look at an article, on the dress code and the rules around that. In this case, we've also pre-translated our article into German. We showed how to do that in a prior piece of the demo. But let's say that our user really is more comfortable viewing this in French. And so again, we're just showing the capability and availability of this on-the-fly translation and how it can be used from a mobile device as well. This same bot technology can also be integrated into other things, password resets and all kinds of other stuff beyond knowledge-based content. So it's a very powerful technology that is being provided through our partner Wiseline. So really, I guess to summarize the presentation and the things we've been looking at today, reducing costs while enhancing the service desk experience. We showed how powerful and forgiving search can empower both self-service and the agent experience to leverage knowledge to move tickets left, move them down to lower cost levels of support, and free our agents and IT workers up to do more important tasks. We showed ticket deflection in self-service. So rather than submitting a ticket directly, solving it in self-service, so reducing costs, as well as getting our workers and employees back to the task at hand immediately without having to wait for an agent to reply. That auto translation into over 100 languages, the ability to fill knowledge-based gaps based on real questions and real demand as part of the ticketing process, leveraging video and images for consumability of that content, and the availability from ComAround to pre-populate your Sharewell knowledge base with thousands of free articles on those enterprise applications, a way to get you jump-started and get your knowledge base valuable, really lowering or shortening the time to value once you get going with knowledge. So with that, we will turn it over to Tabitha and see if we have any questions from our attendees. I'm happy to answer any questions that may be coming in.
Yeah, thank you, Brent, for all of that and the demonstrations. So we did have a few questions come in. So the first one that came in is, can they search directly from the main dashboard page instead of having to click on the button to go to a different page to start their search?
So on the main dashboard page, I guess there's 2 sides to that. One, it would be on the portal side. So if it was a self-service user and when they click the search, that can be done there. Sharewell right now is working on an instance of this demo, and I believe that's the way they're implementing it. So it might take a little bit more conversation, but I think the answer would be yes. It's just depending on how you deploy that.
Okay, and then I think you answered this. This happened very early in the webinar. Does the article translation happen real time through translation services, or does it need to be manually translated to all different languages?
Yeah, it's all machine translation. And so there's a couple, I think, different use cases there. One is from that drop-down list, and those over 100 languages, that is all, of course, machine translation, and it provides that translation in real time, on demand, for your end user that's more comfortable consuming that information in a different language. When we looked at it in terms of adding tabs to our articles, a couple ways that can be done is I did one there where we translated that Word document into German, right? So that could be left as is as a machine translation, but you could also go in and clean up and modify that machine translation if you wanted to tweak it a little bit. So it gives you a starting point for a manual translation if you wanted to do that. Our feedback from our global customers using this translation feature has been extremely good. We've just had tons of accolades about how accurate it is. It is a machine translation, so it's not going to be perfect, but feedback to date from many of our customers has been just how happy and satisfied with the accuracy of that translation.
Our next question is, can you integrate to voice from the bot to Alexa?
Yes. Yep. So that wasn't shown today, but you can talk right into the bot, and it will then, translate that into what is submitted for search, and it will provide you back the relevant results, the same as if you keyed it in with thumbs. So yes.
On to our next question. Can the report outage or error page search automatically without users having to click the search ComAround button?
Okay, I'm not, can you read that one again, Tabitha? I'm not exactly sure what is being asked there.
Okay, can the report outage or error page automatically search without users having to click the search ComAround button?
Report outage. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure what that's referring to, so I can't answer that. Maybe if whoever asked that question could email us. We have our emails right here on this slide, maybe with a bit more detail. I'd be happy to follow up and provide you with an answer. Maybe just provide a little bit more detail on what you're looking for there.
Can you measure article read activity in the agent?
Yes, so within the reporting, you're able to see searches and views. You're able to see that by the different roles of the agents, so that the data capture is very extensive. So there is an element of that within the standard reporting, and then even more data available through the plugin, through the OLAP cubes, to get even more granular. But all of that is captured, yes.
Okay, thank you. When users type questions into the self-service portal, how is the service category populated?
Yeah, so when users on the self-service side, when they're going in through the ticket submission process, there is some configuration that goes on there. And that's part of what the setup that occurs when the map is being deployed. There can be attributes that are tied to an article that will also pre-populate that. It's something we're looking more into. So specific to an article and those parameters driving what the selections are within Sharewheel in the ticket.
Okay, and then our next question is, are role-based, it's RBAC, utilized to give personal experience on portal?
Our rule-based RBAC. Yeah, I am not familiar with what RBAC is referring to. Unfortunately, I can't answer that because I'm not familiar with RBAC.
And then the next question, okay, so RBAC is role-based access.
Okay, so in terms of role-based access, Tabitha, then what was the question there?
Utilized to give personal experience on the portal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we do that via user groups. So if you are a Self-service user, let's say, you'd be able to see one subset of the knowledge base, including recommended articles and different news. If you were a level 1, 2, or 3 agent, for example, you may see different experiences in a subset of the knowledge base. If you were a partner, let's say, you could see an entirely different cross-section of the knowledge base, or if you expose this out to customers on a kind of anonymous basis, they could also have a different experience. So there's huge amount of flexibility in seeing different cross sections of the knowledge based on user groups as defined within ComAround Knowledge. So yeah, a lot of flexibility there.
Okay, and then one of our listeners wants to know, the system seemed to take a little bit to load the search results. Is that normal?
That is a slow demo server. So we're actually implementing a newer demo environment with a better bandwidth and things. But yeah, this was off of just a slow demo box. So that was the reason why it appeared there was some delay there. That's not how it behaves in a production environment.
Another question just came in. Do you have a program to convert our knowledge from Sharewell into ComAround via JSON files?
Yes, absolutely. And that's actually what was done when Cherwell themselves, their global customer support and their knowledge base that was in Cherwell, it was all scripted into the ComAround repository by Excalibur, actually. And so yeah, that script has already been defined. We've done it from Cherwell into ComAround. We've done it into many other platforms into ComAround as well. So it's just a matter of defining the script, mapping the fields, and then it's an automated process.
Okay. If a user searches on Google, can or will our ComAround articles come up in a search?
Within a service desk environment, the answer is no, because our customers typically want that. It's not public knowledge, right? And so it requires login both by the employees to access that proprietary information and by agents to access that. So in the context of the Sharewheel integration, it is not open for indexing by Google or any other search engine. So in terms of this integration, the answer is no.
Okay, so what is the best way to encourage knowledge adoption by service desk staff who believe they know the answer and that it takes longer to use knowledge than to just resolve the ticket?
Yeah, I mean, it really is, it's kind of pay me now or pay me later. For an individual agent, it may be faster for them individually to answer that question without leveraging a knowledge base article or creating that knowledge base article. But the big picture is, this is the whole shift left thing. You want to document and curate that information so that it can be leveraged by others in the service desk who may not have that same level of expertise, right? And so in the moment, it might take longer for that one individual to author or use that content, but bigger picture, you're going to make a lot of other agents faster at answering that similar question because they're able to leverage that knowledge. And this gets into that core concept of knowledge sharing and reuse. So it may seem like you're saving money and time in the moment, but long term, you're actually it's going to require a lot more time as that question is asked and resolved over and over if that knowledge isn't available and in the knowledge base, for other agents to use. And that's not even talking about self-service. If it's something that could be extended down into level 0, there's a whole nother layer of efficiency that could be realized by documenting that knowledge within the knowledge base.
Do you see a lot of challenges deploying ComAround to an organization that is more incident centered on their focus?
Not really. I mean, the thing is that there's always going to be, there's going to be a bell curve of types of incidents that are repetitive and those that aren't, right? And so you don't want to be, writing knowledge-based articles for things that are one-offs, but there's always a pretty large percentage of incidents that are repetitive, that are going to occur over and over again, or that are very similar. And so in documenting those incidents within the knowledge base, you're going to realize the same efficiencies, right? And so, there is real advantage, even in that type of a scenario, to curate knowledge and publish it and make it available to your agents and self-service users.
So kind of a follow-up would be, would you say that ComAround is a knowledge-centered platform rather than an incident-centered platform?
Well, I mean, I think those things overlap. We are a knowledge-centered platform, but knowledge can be leveraged to provide the information it's relevant to incidents, right? But the core of what we provide is a knowledge base, a knowledge management platform.
Okay, and then how did the self-learning search, or how does the self-learning search with the did you mean suggestions work? Do you have to manually train it?
Yeah, so that that search engine is from Azure, Microsoft, and it's using Microsoft Cognitive Services as well. There isn't any training that needs to occur. It has those associations between synonyms and meanings of different words that it brings as part of the technology. And then it also, as I mentioned, is learning over time. So within the context of a given customer, the more it is used and the selections that are made by a user relative to a search string that was input, it's going to improve over time. So that's all kind of inherent in that Azure search package that we're using from Microsoft.
Okay, and then how does licensing work? Sharewell has a concurrent licensing, which is a big value add for us.
Yeah, and that's a big deal for us too. So for Sharewell customers, we map directly to how Sharewell licenses. So Sharewell, of course, is on a concurrent licensing model. And for Sharewell customers, we are also concurrent. We don't charge extra for self-service. If you have, 20 Sharewell concurrent licenses, you would also have 20 concurrent ComAround licenses. So the licensing methodology mirrors essentially exactly. From a cost perspective, that's kind of a separate conversation, but we charge just a percentage of what you paid for Sharewell. So if you paid $100 per Sharewell seat or 75 or whatever it is, we charge a percentage of what you paid for each concurrent Sharewell seat. That's how we license ComAround. And then, of course, there is a little bit of an implementation fee, and that would be done typically by our partner like Excalibur to configure the map.
Okay, and I think that just about wraps up all the questions that we had, unless you had anything else you wanted to add, Brent. I know you did a lot of speaking today.
Yeah, I need a glass of water, but but I just wanted to say thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you found this valuable and informative. And if you would like to learn more about the map or the pricing or ComAround in general, anything, please feel free to reach out to either Tabitha or myself. Happy to line up, individual kind of tailored meetings to go into detail more specific to, your service desk operation or how you're using Sharewell. So please feel free to reach out. Also, really, please feel free to reach out with any other questions that come up, because I'd just be happy to answer them. So love questions and love talking to customers. So feel free to contact me anytime.
And we just had our last question come in about if we plan to share this presentation, and we do. We will have this available online, and I will be sending this in the email follow-up tomorrow. And so then you can share it with any coworkers or anyone else that might have missed it that you think that they would find value in watching it.
Very good. I think we almost came up perfect on time as well. So that's great.
Yes, I think so. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you, Brent.
Yep, thank you, Tabitha.